Okay, welcome to Understanding High Density Nutrients and Ingredients. This is actually one of the most important sections of the entire program, which is understanding what is a high density nutrient and understanding which ingredients you want to put into your body. We live in a time where we are exposed to so many toxins and chemicals and terrible additives and ingredients in all of our food that has become even more challenging for people to try to decipher what's good, what's bad, what's not so bad, what's not so good, what's really bad, And I've been teaching ingredients and understanding ingredients for almost 20 years. And I used to walk people through the grocery store and have them read ingredients out loud to me on some of their items that they would typically buy. And it's shocking to me how many people, which is actually most people, and this probably is you or could be you, that you just don't pay attention to ingredients. You just assume, well, if it's in the store, it's going to be fine because the FDA is looking out for me. I want to just put one thing into your mind's eye right now, which is it's called the Food and Drug Administration. Have you ever wondered why do they call it the Food and Drug Administration? Why isn't there a separate food administration and then a separate drug administration? Why are they the same administration? And what have they really done over the last 60, 70 years to protect our health? These are really important questions to ask, and these are questions millions of people around the world are asking. So I encourage you to just ask that of yourself. Why is it the same administration? I'm not going to get into all that right now, but it's just information. So I want you to ask yourself, what's going in our food and what's going in the normal products that I buy in the grocery store. So understanding high density nutrient is actually very easy. A high density nutrient is a nutrient from nature, something that was organically grown and put on earth to nourish us. It grows on a tree, it grows in the ground, or it's from an animal. And I don't advocate being vegan, but if you are vegan or want to be vegan, that's okay. But I don't teach anyone to be vegan. I don't teach anyone to be any one way, actually, because different people need different nutrients depending on where they are in their healing journey and whether they're a man or a woman and what their health conditions are, what their symptoms are, and also what age they are. So everybody needs different nutrients at different times in their life. So that's why I never tell anyone to be just a vegan or just a carnivore or just whatever. I don't do that. But I am going to teach you how to eat for your body, for where you are in your healing journey, and for you to understand what you need individually, because that's going to be different from what somebody else needs. But understanding nutrients is very important. So a nutrient is anything that's actually a real food in real raw form. That's a nutrient, okay? So like garlic, ginger, onions, vegetables, fruits, even some natural, organically grown nuts and seeds, and even certain grains that are old heirloom grains from centuries ago, not the kind of grains we get in America that have been destroyed and genetically modified and they're basically like chemicals now. Not those grains, but there are grains that are called heirloom grains, and they're found sometimes in Europe and other countries that can actually have a lot of nutrients in them and be beneficial. So think about a nutrient as anything in its natural form: an egg, a piece of steak, raw milk, raw dairy. Again, not easy to find here in America, but actually very nutrient dense. Raw seeds, but we don't want to eat raw seeds per se. There's ways to prepare them that are really nutrient dense. Raw fruits, raw vegetables. And by the way, I'm not going to tell you to be a raw foodist either, because I don't believe in that necessarily either. But just think of vegetables, fruits, animal products, nuts, grains, seeds in the raw form, in the organic form, that haven't been denatured, they haven't been destroyed, that haven't been chemically altered, that They don't have additives, flavors, chemicals, preservatives, and all this other toxic stuff added to them. That's a high density nutrient. Also, we put into that category high density nutrient herbs. Herbs are also grown. Think of cilantro and parsley and, a lot of leafy vegetables. And there's so many herbs. And I love herbs because they're extremely healing. The right ones at the right time and the right amount. Herbs are extremely, extremely healing. Like mind-boggling healing benefits of herbs. Like mind-boggling. There's a reason herbs have been around for centuries and used in healing all cultures, because they do work and they are incredibly healing when you use the right ones in the right amount at the right time. So herbs, think of herbs as very healing. There's hundreds of herbs, and those are high density nutrients. Now, it is possible to be sensitive to certain things that you eat, and most of you probably are sensitive to certain things because most of you have gut lining issues based on the foods you've been eating all these years that have actually slowly started to destroy your gut lining because of all the sprays, the pesticides, the glyphosate, genetically modified organisms that are sprayed on all our foods that literally break down our gut lining. And so we end up with all these immune system issues because our immune system, most of it's located in our gut. Our brain function is dependent on our gut. So think of they destroy your gut lining. If your gut lining is destroyed, it's hard to think straight. It's hard to function well. It's hard for your immune system to function. You're going to have digestive problems. You're going to have neurological problems, nervous system problems. So your gut is really the foundation of your body, and what goes in it really, really, really matters. And it's when you have your gut lining injured or destroyed, or I don't want to say destroyed totally because that's not accurate, but not highly functioning and protecting your gut lining, which it's supposed to do. When it's not working optimally, you're going to have all sorts of health issues. And so the goal is to heal the gut lining, and you heal your gut lining with the right nutrients. And the right nutrients contain vitamins, minerals, enzymes, probiotics, and all sorts of amazing good bacteria and microorganisms that literally help to repair your gut, strengthen your immune system, and start pushing toxins and all the gunk and the bad stuff out of the body. So the goal is high density nutrients in, helps to push all the toxins and bad stuff out. Okay? So we are going to focus on high density nutrients, making them taste good, making foods and dishes with high density nutrients only. The motto is, if it's not a nutrient, it doesn't go in the body. If it's not a nutrient, it doesn't go in the body. Because if it's not a nutrient, very often it's a toxin. And people willingly poison themselves every single day in these micro dosages. And I always liken it to this. Like, think about like if you drank just a little bit of Windex every day. Oh, it's just a quarter of a cup full. It's not really going to hurt me. Imagine if you do that day after day after day, every day for your whole life. What's going to happen? You're going to get sick. You're going to develop a disease. You're going to break down. You're going to start to feel awful. You might not feel awful at first, but eventually it's going to catch up to you. And that's what happens with everybody. And I don't care, there's people that go, well, my grandma lived to 89 and she smoked every day and she drank whiskey every day. And my grandfather lived to 112 and he ate 12 eggs a day and he smoked and he drank. Okay, but people use these extreme examples of a few people maybe in their family that lived to be 100 and they still didn't live that, they weren't extra healthy. But I want to tell you something. They weren't exposed in their lifetime at early ages the way we have been exposed to the amount of chemicals and craziness in their lifetime that we're exposed to. So when people make these comparisons, I have to tell you, you're comparing apples and oranges. It's very, very, very different situations. We grew up in a very, very different time than when they grew up and how their immune systems were exposed to things. So you got to take that into effect. And then you got to take into which genes are getting turned on and off throughout your life. I kind of covered that a little bit earlier on in another lesson. So anyway, I want you to focus on high density nutrients. If it's not a nutrient, don't put it in your body. Don't put it in your mouth. Don't put it in a drink. Don't put it on your skin if it's not a nutrient. And just start consciously asking yourself every time you eat, every time you drink, is this a high density nutrient? If the answer is no, don't eat it or drink it. Switch it out for the high density nutrient. And if you have questions about what's a high density nutrient, this is where the community page is important. Reach out, ask questions in there. All questions will be answered in the community, because everybody's going to have very similar questions, and you're not the only one with the question. There are no dumb questions. So if you're not sure, like, well, what is a high density nutrient, and it's hard for you to remember, it might take a while for you to really memorize what's a high density nutrient. Now let's get into ingredients for a second. I want you, for yourself, when you get done with this lesson, okay, I want you to go into your fridge, go into your cupboards, go into your pantry. And this is a great thing to do with kids if you have kids. This is actually fun for kids and a really great way for them to learn, because I've worked with so many kids with eating issues. They only eat 3 things. The parents come to me and they're like, my kid only eats 4 things. And that's a whole nother topic that I will happily talk about if you're having this issue with your kids, because it's very easy to resolve. And I love working with kids. But I want to just tell you, go into your fridge, go into your pantry, go into your cupboard, and pull out any 3 or 4 things from your fridge, from your freezer, from your pantry, from your cupboard. And I want you to read out loud some of the ingredients. Just read them out loud. Read them out loud. Have your kids read them out loud. Can they even pronounce them? Okay? And then start to ask yourself, wait a minute, what am I putting in my body? And wait a minute, why are they putting in this in our food? And wait a minute, why are they allowed to put this in our food? And wait a minute, isn't anybody protecting our food? And wait a minute, isn't there any oversight? And so you're going to start asking more questions. And so anyway, just start looking at some of the products in your cupboard, your fridge, your pantry. This is a great way to learn about ingredients. What's a real ingredient? What's a real ingredient? It is what it is. It's an onion. It's a garlic. It's a tomato. That's a real ingredient. So if you read real ingredients on packages, you're getting, okay, that's a real ingredient. But if you're reading all sorts of chemicals and all sorts of preservatives and all sorts of flavors and all sorts of coloring and all sorts of weird names and sodium benzoate and folic acid and all these weird things, and if it says fortified or enriched, those are chemicals. They're not real vitamins and minerals they're adding in. They're chemicals. They're synthetic chemicals. And I'm going to get into ingredients more further on, but I just want to give you like an overview and just get your mind going and just start getting you focused on high density nutrients only. That's the name of the game. That's how we heal. And that's what we're going to focus on for the entire program. So I look forward to getting more into this with you. More into this with you as we move along. I just said that 4 times. I'm sorry. And hopefully this is eye-opening or helpful. And be sure to do that lesson. What I'm going to have you do is take a few pictures of some of the foods in your pantry, cupboard, or refrigerator that you're shocked at what the ingredients are, and just take a few pictures of the ingredient labels for this lesson, and you're going to upload them to this lesson, okay? And let's see what we find. And we're going to share in the community too some of the things we have lurking in our own homes that we can't believe we're eating, or we can't believe we're feeding to our kids after we start looking at the ingredients. You're going to be an ingredient expert by the time you get further along in this program. You will start to become an ingredient expert. And by the way, this is very important. This is information everybody should know in this day and age. It's extremely important and empowering. And this is how you take control of your health. Okay, on to the next lesson, and I will see you soon.